Hello and welcome back to another Talking To episode. I'm your host Teddy, and today I'm being joined once again by
Hayden.
And today we're going to talk about the TMNT, the IDW Volume 1, the first story arc. And yeah, so this is basically your first time properly reading these comics. What do you think about this new version of Turtles?
Well, at first I had no idea what I was getting myself into, to be honest. I was thinking, okay, we're going back to the originals, and I had no idea what the originals were like. I had never read or never seen any Turtle comic before until now. So, to be honest, it's really cool. Like, it's really cool how it's changed over time, and how it's just slowly altered throughout time, but it still remains mostly the same. But seeing this version was actually pretty cool, and it just kind of threw a different twist on everything. And I'm not gonna lie, I kind of like this version. This version's very dark, very gloomy, and yeah, no, it was certainly very different.
You have to say that this is one of my favourite versions of the Turtles, just because of the dark, more mature, the history, the lore, and how they have to do something in issue 1, and then something in issue 50 would be bring out something that happened in issue 1. There's so much of it stuff which I do love about this version of comics, with the characters bringing so many old characters into this universe and working them into this one to make them more interesting and fascinating, and something which I do think we'll be talking about, especially like characters like Han. It's a very great universe that's able to take all the best parts about every pre-existing universe and just rework them into something better. And yeah, so that's something which I do want to start off with. And this has nothing to do with the actual comic itself, which I think you'll find quite funny. I was looking at the Wikipedia page about this universe. I'm not too sure why, but I was looking at the character section, and under miscellaneous, there are some weird characters, such as Matthew. And you can't find out any more information about the character. So...
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't know who Matthew is.
Neither do I, and I've read all the comics twice. Yeah, it's Matthew.
Yep. The mysterious Matthew, I guess.
So yeah, okay, so where to begin with this? Let's start off with the Turtles. So Raphael, so in this new version, he was taken from the others when it's been mutated, and was left to defend himself and be raised before he finally found Casey. What do you think about this new version of Raph compared to other versions?
To be honest, it is very different seeing this version of Raph. Sure, Raphael is still, Raphael. He's still the short-tempered, hot-headed honcho of the group that is always looking for trouble and a fight. But to see him in this way was certainly very different. And I say that because this Raphael was scared, he was alone, he was fending for himself, trying to scrummage through the New York City streets, trying to find a decent meal, and he's just trying to survive. And it's his way was much more tempered, I think, in this version. He was trying to defend himself, trying to survive, whilst also not trying to get himself too much attention or trying to get drawn into any fights at all. But Raphael in this shows they can go different ways with Raphael. Raphael can be used as a really good storytelling character just by himself.
Yeah, I have to say that with this new story, I have to say that it's a very fascinating way to tell the story and bring something very new to the table, which I think that this is definitely something which got a lot of people very invested in this universe because of how new and interesting it was compared to other universes where it's just just all tells all of them at same. It's nothing new, too different. And I think that this is what works so well in the beginning, where it was something so different, but at the same time so interesting and fascinating, where you do want to find out more and what happened. And do you think that it does like explain like a lot about his character, with like how he's angry and how he is and how he acts and all that, which I do find to be very interesting, especially if how like it affects him with other stuff later on in issues. But I do think that the only problem with this, and something which I do dislike about it, is the fact that shortly after this they do more or less like don't really mention it ever again, despite this being like a very big thing in his life. It's just something which they pretty much forget more or less straight after, which is really disappointing, because you'd think that something like this they will go into this quite a bit, but unfortunately they don't. Do you have anything else to say about the other turtles? Because I don't really think there's really too much I can really talk about the other turtles just yet, because they didn't really explore them too much compared to Raph. Or did you have anything to say about them?
To be honest, no. At first, I was a bit weirded out at the fact that they all had the same bandana. I was thinking, is this Raphael? Are these all Raphaels? Is this really weird? Like, who's who? I had no idea who was who in that scene. Like, is this Raphael? Is that Raphael? Was it like a misprint or a different color at the time? Did they not have the bandanas in the originals that they do now in today's world? It was just so confusing.
Yeah, I'd have to say, like, with that, I do like how, like, they do like put that emotional twist onto everything, which I do think is really great. But I also have to say that at the same time, just like, what if that wasn't Raph and you know, the Splinter was just racing just 4 random turtles and he just and it wasn't Raph? It's just like a lot of luck and chance, which just seems a bit too coincidental. So yeah. Do you have anything to say about Splinter? Because I will be talking about like the origin stuff later, but is there anything else you want to talk about him? Because I don't have too much to really say about him.
Splinter at this moment in time in the episode, well, at the start of this like first ever scene that we see him, I don't really have too much to say, no, unfortunately. But as we go deeper into this sort of comic, I do have a lot more information. But at the time, I'm going to be quite reserved with Splinter at this moment.
Yep, I know the reason why. I guess also April falls into that sort of category as well, where it's just like, it's an okay character, but in future issues you find out more about the character, so I don't really think there's too much you can really talk about her there. Casey, anything got to say about him?
Casey Jones was an interesting character. However, he has a very tragic and dark backstory, which I didn't realise how dark it was. Like, sure, we got Casey Jones, he's the badass rogue warrior, the vigilante of sorts, but I didn't realise his backstory was so morbid and tragic. Like, his mother passing of cancer, his drunken father who beats him up on a nightly basis. It's really dark, and it sounds like a Batman backstory, to be honest. Something from a DC movie or a comic or something along those lines.
Yeah, let's say that with this version of Casey, I do enjoy his background and history, and so which we'll be talking about in just a second with Han. Well, I do really enjoy the new like retcon kind of thing with Han and Casey. I think that works so well, where it's just taking like what worked before, modernising it to where it works still, and also at the same time, well, like it's giving us like something new and enjoyable. It works so well, and I just say that with Casey, I do feel like he's always like not really represented that well, where he's not really like used that too well. And I do feel like later on in the series, he becomes like so much of a side character to the point where he's barely in the issues, and that's really disappointing. But I have to say that I do quite enjoy this version of Casey, and do think like there's a lot of stuff with this character which I really do enjoy, and there's a lot of stuff which I would like to say is my favourite version, just because like just like one, he's like meeting Raph and it's on friendly terms, his whole backstory and reasons why he's doing stuff. There's a lot of stuff which I do enjoy about this character, and just feel in a way a lot different from other versions, which I think works so well. There's just so much about his character which just works so well for being so different, but at the same time just keeping the core essence of the character but modernising it. But with that being said, Hun. What do you have to say about Hun?
Hun?
Yeah, it was Casey's dad.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
No, wait. Hun's Casey's dad?
Yes, in this universe.
What? What? Well, no. Han, Casey's dad is Han.
Yes.
He didn't. What? This is some new information. If you guys can't tell, how did I not see that? How did I not know that Casey's dad was Han?
Well, it was going by a different name called Arnold, but he was like back in his day when he was running the Pearl Dragons, he used to go by Han, and later in the series when he becomes a better version of himself, he goes by that name again. So there may be some bit of confusion there, but
yeah, I did not realise Casey's dad was Han. I had no idea. I thought he was just a drunken, backwash character that we were never going to see again.
Oh no, he shows up quite a bit later.
Wow. Yeah, I don't know what to say to that because I had no idea that he was Han.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, I'll just say that like with this version of Han, I don't think any version of Han is gonna beat the 2003 version. I feel like 2003 version is about as good as 2003 back Stockman when you compare him to like every other version. You just can't beat the originals. And I'll just say that with this new version of Han, it's a very interesting take on his character, and I do like how they do progress him as a character in a very interesting way, an organic way compared to like other characters which, you know, just feel like they're just, you know, come in and then they already have powers or to get powers very quickly or something along those kind of lines. It just feels like he goes through a very good story arc throughout the series, and I do feel like with his new retcon history with Casey compared to like 2003 where Han was the reason why Casey's father died. Now in this version, it's like Han is Casey's father. I mean, it's so interesting, fascinating because it opens up like so many avenues of like possibilities you can take with like their relationship, and how it's so interesting and fascinating and stuff like that. And like seeing like where his character begins in the beginning and see where he ends, it's just so fascinating compared to like what we got in 2003. At the same time, 2003 is just the ultimate Han.
Yeah.
Okay, well, a new character was introduced, Old Hob. I've got a feeling you got quite a bit to say about him.
Hobbs was certainly very different and a really cool character, because at first he was like this mutated cat who was starting trouble with the Turtles and Splinter and really had it out for them for some reason. And as we developed and went through this comic, it was very relevant on why he had this hatred for them. And to be honest, it was very petty, but I could see why. But it was just so crazy to think that this character was once just an ordinary cat, and now he's a mutated humanoid cat man. It's weird, but it somehow I don't know why, but having Hobbs in this comic was actually really cool, because we're seeing a mutant interact with actual human beings in New York City, and no one questions it. No one questions why he's like a giant cat with an eye patch. No one questions it. No one bats an eye. No one's freaking out. Unlike if someone was to see the Turtles, they'd run and scream. But Hobbs, Hobbs is fine.
Yeah, I'd say that with Hob, he's a very cool character, and like it, because with his character, shortly after this, they do change his character in a very fun way to be more of like an anti-hero. And I got a feeling that the more they watch this series, the more you're gonna love his character. I feel like he's gonna be one of your favorite characters. I'm just already gonna make that call, and I do think that he becomes a very cool character. He just lots of guns, lots of grenades, and all that kind of stuff. He's like the kind of character that you would like. I'd say I'd say that if he was in the game, he would be your main character. He's like that kind of character. I don't know what the best kind of character, because people like compared him to like Tiger Claw, but I feel like that might be the closest sort of character to his character. But he's like a very cool character. It's you're just gonna love him, and I do feel like in like these first few issues, I don't feel like his motives are like best represented here compared to how he is in modern stuff with like the things that he's doing, because yeah, he does feel like very petty with his stuff, but it's a little bit understandable, but at the same time just feels like very petty compared to like, because he just got mutated, so like, oh yes, I want to kill them all. I feel like there could have been a lot more to it than just I want to kill them all just because this one guy scratched my eye out. I thought there could have been a lot more to his motives, but I think it's decent enough. But where his character goes after this is a lot more interesting. Yeah, okay, so I feel like we should talk about the actual main story itself before we talk about the origin stuff. So with this new story, we've got to see the turtles go out looking out for Raphael, and when we do find him in the pub, he's not like a lot of like old Hobb's goons with old Hob, and turtles do find him, and they bring him home Splinter. And yeah, so what about like the story overall for this like first story arc?
Well, to be honest, I actually really did like this story. At first, I was a bit confused on how everything was going to get pieced together and how everything was going to play out, but I thought it was actually pretty well done. Like, someone took the time and effort just to, like, choreograph how each scene's going to fall into the next one, and just seeing how it all comes together, and just to seeing how Raphael and his brothers are reunited at the end of it, just seeing them all together and just seeing how everything has led to this moment was pretty interesting. It was very different, but it was interesting to think that they could do something like this. They could make another somewhat different version of how like the backstory of the turtles could play out in a certain way, and I really did enjoy it because it changed things up a bit. Instead of the traditional backstory of the turtles getting mutated and being all together, they were separated and they had to find their own path, they had to find their own way, and I thought that was really cool how they did that.
You have to say that with this story, I do like how this one, they're not trying to go like too ambitious and try to like be like, oh, save the world and all that kind of stuff. I do like how this one is like very grounded and very just like very much to core characters and setting things up for the future for the series with like Krang and like old Hob and stuff like that, which is like really great. And I do feel like because this one is such an emotional story, trying to like get Raphael back and all that kind of stuff, and like how they integrated with the backstory of how they were getting mutated at StockGen, I find that all to be like so fascinating, really great. And I do definitely feel like this is something which is definitely missing in like most modern comics, and especially in like the Turtle stuff, where it feels like most Turtle stories are either like trying to set up like too much stuff for the future, or it's just not trying to be as good. I know there's something about it which is just missing this kind of quality, but I would say that is somewhat like and something which you would expect, because after this, like, where do you go from here? But I do feel like this is like a really great grounded story that just introduces you to every character. Maybe not in like the best way, because I do feel like most characters in the story arc could have been presented a little bit better and actually have a bit more of a character to them. But I feel like other than that, this is a really great story just to set things up, get used to these characters and this new universe, and just like showing off all these new differences. And we'd have to say that all these new differences with this universe, such as like Raph being missing and the whole stuff with Casey and Hun, it was just so fascinating to see like these differences compared to all the other versions of Turtles that are coming out at the time, because at the time we only had the original cartoon 2003 and the comics, so there wasn't really too much to like really like compare this to, and like seeing like how much has really come off, like changes that came after this, such as like 2012 with like all different appearances with Turtles designs. We got Rights also changed, like so much like came after this, like was able to reinvent the Turtles. And I would say that a lot of that came from like this, where it was able to reinvent it in a very interesting and faithful way to the original comics, giving the core essence of the universe, the characters, but changing out to be something really fascinating and really interesting. It's just so great to see that I had to do something like that. And yeah, it's just so amazing to see that this was the first story that was able to get like so many people invested in this one. And I have to say that it's just so disappointing that they've not like decided to make any sort of adaptations of this into like an animated movie or TV show, because this story I feel like would get a lot of people interested in Turtles again because of how great it is. So yeah. Okay, yeah. Let's talk about the backstory, like the origin story, and I got a feeling that you've definitely got a lot to say about this stuff. So let's start off with the StockGen stuff first. So with the StockGen stuff, we do get to see that this was like 15 months ago, and at StockGen, Backstorman was he was helping Krang to win a war and got Mutant to create some super soldiers, and that mutant was being used on the Turtles and Splinter before they were broken into by ninjas and they were taken away. So what do you think about this origin story, or like so the first part of the origin story, because I've got a feeling you got a lot to say about the second part.
Well, if we're going to start with StockGen first, I'm just going to say that was certainly very different. Like, of course, it kind of reminded me of the, not 2012, the 2003, wait, gosh, I'm trying to remember it all now. Yeah, I'm referring to, like, the 2003 comics, in which there's April O'Neil that's gone to work with Baxter Stockman, and she's the secretary and working as an intern. I thought it was pretty cool seeing that, and it was really cool to see some new characters as well, some different characters in this sort of different environment to what we usually see April in. Like, we see April's colleagues, who are a bit of like they're scientists and technicians themselves, and it was really cool to see these all different characters playing their role within this organization that Stockman runs. But yeah, no, I thought April's backstory into how she knew the Turtles was really interesting, because how she was introduced to them as experiments, and now she's like absolutely adores them and has like this really deep connection with them because she's like working with them as well, and just seeing how Splinter comes into the fold. And the crazy thing was about that whole scene is about learning about Splinter's actual name and where it actually comes from. I never thought of something so crazy, but it works. It really does work. Like, Splinter is like short for like the psychiatric drug that he was being tested on, and it splits the two minds, so like having two souls and two minds, one smarter than the other. That is so cool how they managed to get that name in there as Splinter, and it just sticks. And it really does just stick. And I really enjoyed that, just like learning the names, the backstories, and how April O'Neil was like such a major part in like the development of the Turtles as before they were pre-mutated, of course. But it was just really cool seeing how everything played out in this laboratory. Like, all began as StockGen. Stockman was experimenting on the Turtles. Something went wrong, they escaped, and it all started from there. And of course, it started with April as well, because without April given the names, they'll just be, you know, Turtle 1, Turtle 2, Turtle 3, and Turtle 4, and Rat. That's it, really. But no, I really did enjoy how they set that up.
Oh, I mean, I'd like to agree with you, but I mean, I do like how they was using this as a way to give the Turtles their names and Splinter their name. But at the same time, I do think it's a little bit weird, just because when they like get mutated and start to remember everything, really, and they start to remember basically, oh yeah, that's from the past life and all that kind of stuff. Why would they keep their new names? That's the only thing which I really got to say about it, because that's the only thing which I do find to be like so weird, because like with Mark Splinter and all that, it seems and even with the Turtles, like, why would Splinter keep like their new names if he's like their father from Japan? You would think that maybe they'll like go back to the original names. It just seems a little bit weird, but I mean, it's annoying because on one hand, I do like how they do it in the comics, where it's a very interesting way, but at the same time, it just, I don't know, it just seems a bit weird because I say that if just like real life, and I feel like most people would change their names back or something along those kind of lines. It just seems so weird, like, and go through all this like amazing stuff, and they remember their past lives and want to keep their new names. It just seems so weird. But I'll just say that like, with April being a integral part of the story, without her getting mutated and stuff like that, that is very great, and also setting up the connection with these characters and stuff like that. It's just like, so great and amazing how they have to like integrate this stuff into this and set things up for the future for when they do eventually meet. It's just so great and amazing how they have to set this stuff up. And then even with these stuff with like Krang and Baxter, that's also really great with, like, what they're setting up there for what they do eventually show off with Dimension X and the war. That's all really cool. There's also which I just really enjoy, but I think it's just that one aspect of just like, while they keep their names if they already got names, it just seems so weird. But I'd say that overall it's a really great new origin, and I would say that like with what like the part we're talking about next, it explains so much, which I think like I'd just say is much better for explaining why they're able to do all the ninja stuff with like especially I think here. This is so amazing. But yeah, okay, let's talk about the next part, which is probably one of the darkest parts, and also probably the part which you probably got a lot to say about. So with the second part of the origin, which is actually the original part of how everything came to be, which was that Splinter and the Turtles were actually humans in Japan like centuries ago, and they were killed off by Shredder, and now they got reincarnated as the Turtles and Splinter. So I'll let you to start. Well, yeah.
Oh, that makes so much more sense now when you put it like that.
Okay.
I did not realise. I thought that was just a story. Like, I didn't realise. Like, sure, I was thinking, why is Splinter going back to this story? How does he know this information? Was it like a story that he read at the lab? Maybe he was watching like a movie that had this sort of stuff in. Maybe something along those lines. I didn't realise it was like reincarnation. That should have been so obvious, but it wasn't. And I think I just had one of those thick moments. But I'm so glad you said that, because I was going to go on something completely different.
It is like somewhat obvious, but also at the same time it isn't. I think it's just something that if you reread it again and read like the next few issues, it does become like quite obvious. But I think that like for the first time, it is not really that obvious. It's more just like, oh, this happened in another life, and just what coincidence to talk about it. But once you reread it again, so it does become a little bit more clearer, and also when you read next few issues, it becomes like quite clear like what really happened.
Yeah, no, I didn't realise that was reincarnation, but to be honest, it was really cool. Like, we were going back in time to like ancient Japan and learning about how the Foot and Shredder and Yokosaki, learning about how everything started off, like how this story is now being brought into the present day world. It was just really cool because I don't know much about the Japanese world in the sense of the Turtle universe. Like, I know that they take a lot of inspiration from Japanese culture, Japanese fighting style, Japanese weaponry, and so forth. But seeing this in a different way, like seeing like how they made this so in the Japanese world, like the Foot and the betrayal and the destruction and death, was really cool. And I must say, in the comics, they have made it very... I do like this comic style. Like, I really do. Like, this style of comics and how they managed to use the different techniques to show different scenes. I really liked it because it was very dark. It was very... I wouldn't say gory in some sense, but it showed a lot more. Like, you showed blood, you showed gore, you showed destruction a lot more than you do in like the TV shows, and I really did enjoy that as well. Another part I do like as well is like they don't hold back. Like, I may be going a bit far here, but when Shredder, of course, although he's not named Shredder in this comic, but I'm guessing he will become the Shredder eventually, kills Hamato Yoshi and his 4 children right in front of him with literally no mercy at all. Like, I was like, wow, that is really dark. I'm thinking, oh, he's gonna spare them. Maybe he has a soul. Nope, just straight up executes them right in front of their father, and he's distressed. He's in horror, and then of course he breaks out one of the most coolest lines I think in that in this comic. He said, "Whatever happens, wherever I'll be, I'll find you and I will destroy you." That is probably like one of the coolest lines I've heard so far in like the TMT universe. Like, he's like soul bound on revenge. Like, one day he will find you in another time, in another world, and he will destroy you. Like, that's something cold. Like, surely if someone was to say that before, if someone was to say that to you before they died, then you know that something's gonna go down. You know that for sure. But it was really cool how it was all played out and how the story of reincarnation links back into the present day world. But yeah, no, it was really, really cool. And I cannot believe I did not pick up on that at all until now.
Yeah, where do I begin with this? So,
I know you're going to have a lot to say to this.
Well, I mean, I do, but at the same time, because I feel like because I've seen it for quite a while and I got used to it, it's something which, like, 2003 show and the 2012 one, it's just like, I've seen it for so long, how do I talk about it and say something new which hasn't already been said before, but at the same time, this feels, like, natural to me, compared to if I was watching, like, something like new Tale stuff, where I can give my opinion about it, and it wouldn't feel new, compared to, like, the old stuff, where it's just, like, I grew up on it. And it still feels like falls in line in that category because I've read these comics for quite a while now, and this sort of stuff just feels like natural and normal for this kind of stuff. And yeah, I'll just say that because when this is coming out, this is definitely like one of the biggest draws to this universe with the like new origin, and with them like changing a lot of new stuff up with this new version. And then going like straight into this one for issues number 5, I thought it was a very bold take because like most stories, I normally do like the origin within like the first 2 or 3 issues, but like do like the proper origin in like one of the last sort of issues for the story arc. A very bold take, but a very great one. And I'd say that with this new interpretation of it, it was just so refreshing to see them like taking everything from like the past versions of Turtles again and then modernising it to be something new and different was just so great and amazing, because I'd say that like with the versions that came before before this one, they were all pretty much like same-ish, I want to say, like they still like share a lot of similarities between them. So like seeing something like this where it was just so completely different was just like, so nice to see. And with this one, I see like, there's a lot of really great stuff about this one. Because one, I do feel like this, in many ways, I do feel like it does explain the whole reason why Turtles know like ninjutsu a lot better, but also at the same time, it's just like really reincarnation. Like, like at the same time, if you believe in that stuff, then it works. But if you don't, then it just becomes a lot of like crazy, like, what a coincidence and all that kind of stuff. And like in one of the final issues for the current run before they relaunched it, they did explain a lot more of how it actually came to be, which was unnecessary but at the same time really cool. But I do like how this one is able to explain why Turtles do know ninjutsu and not have to go through everything of, oh yeah, it's a rat that learned ninjutsu from his master, or the master got turned into a rat. So I like how it did like change things up in a very nice way, and something which I don't think like many fans really complained about, which was like really nice to see. And then going into like the last part, which yeah, it was very dark, but it was just so amazing. I have to say that like when you like read these like first 20-30 issues from this series, is just so refreshing with how dark it is, and like, how much stuff they have to get away with, all, like so much blood they're able to show. It's just so nice and refreshing compared to like every other version, which, you know, it's not bad not to see blood, but at the same time, it's just so nice, refreshing, not more gory, gritty, and stuff like that, which just makes you just get a bit more invested in this universe. And I like how it's not going like too far, but at the same time, it's just like far enough to be invested. But yeah, and then everything with the whole like stuff with Shuriken, the Tolls, it was just so like I'm speechless about it. It's just so great, and I do like how they do set things up for everything in this universe. And yeah, dare I say, possibly one of the best origins for the Turtles. Maybe even one of the best like retelling of an origin ever, I would have to say. So yeah, I think you did also mention the artwork, which was something which I don't want to talk about. So, what do you think about the art style for this universe?
This art style, like I said before, I really do enjoy it. Like this comic art style is very different to what we usually see. We usually see like the animation side of things, like the 3D animation, which is good and all, but it's not as authentic. It's not as creative. Like the 2003 show, I really do love their art style. Like it's a blend between 2D and 3D, and it just sits with me so well because it reminds me of other shows that I used to watch as a kid, like the Transformer shows and all that sort of stuff that used a similar art style. But with this, I really did enjoy like the comics. Like it was back to basics. Like it was the very first of its kind, the very first sort of comic of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and it was really cool. And I really did like how they used the different strokes of different colors, the different strokes in texture, and just how they managed to like pin it all together to make it look somewhat 3D, even though it was 2D. So like the visual and like 3D aspects of it was really cool and how they did it. But yeah, no, I really did like the whole aesthetic that it brought, because it kind of reminded me of something like a DC comic, you know, like the DC style sort of world. Like it was dark, it was gloomy, it was like something from like Batman, or it was something from like a darker version of DC, you know. And I really do enjoy that good side of things.
You have to say that with this art style, this artist was done by Dan Duncan. Oh god, and let me rephrase that. This art was done by Dan Duncan. I'd say that his art style was a really great like blend of like, I'd say like 2003, built 2007, and just like something which, because I think that with the comic books, there's a lot of limitations and like a lot of pros to it. One, you had to do a lot more stuff with like showing off a lot more things, which I do think is really great because you have to do like so much more which like TV shows and movies can't do. But I'd say that at the same time, I do think that with there's also like a lot of limitation with the comic book aspect, because it's a comic book, there's no voices, no anything like TV show would have, and I do feel like it, because it's just so hard to talking about comics, it's hard to explain compared to like TV show where to go in depth with everything. And with the art style, because like the artists, because like with the art they do change the artists like every story arc, which you can get some good ones, and also you can get some not so good ones. There's an artist coming up in issue like 13 and 14, which yeah, they can draw. Every other character is really good except for the Turtles, and there's loads of other like artists out there which like, you know, it's annoying because and do get like some really great artists, and also combined with some not so good stuff. But I'd say that with this first one, it was a really great combination of just like past versions of the Turtles and just doing something like that looks like really nice and really great. It's really disappointing that this artist just leave the book after 12 issues, and I would have loved to see this artist come back and do a whole lot more, because his art style was really great. And then with the colours, wow. So the colours were done by Rhonda Patterson, and she did 150 issues of the ongoing series, She also did some stuff for some other mini-series, and is also working on the new ongoing series for the Mutant Nation stuff. And it's surprising how much she's been able to do, and she works with like so many different artists on this series, and it's honestly unbelievable with her colouring, just because some of it doesn't look like what like you would like see in like one issue, and then you go into the next one done by a different artist with different colouring style. It's just unbelievable to see her art style, like colouring change, like from artist to artist. It's just so incredible and amazing. And I say that all the colours that she chose for this was just perfect. So yeah, is there anything else you want to say about this stuff, or?
To be honest, not really much. I can't say more. Otherwise, I'll just keep repeating myself. Unfortunately, that I can't think of any more words to like say how cool this is and how detailed and really like these people were passionate about this project. Like they took the time and effort to do everything properly. Like they drew it, they painted it, they coloured it, they scripted it, and I see a lot of passion in this, and that's all I can really say, really.
You had to say that this was definitely one of the better versions of the Turtles, and I have to say that for a brand new beginning for this universe, it did a really great job of bringing everyone into this universe and just setting things up in a very natural way, and I'm so glad we got something like this, and yeah. So with that, would you be interested in reading more from this universe?
It's certainly something to think about. It's surely like, well, we might as well, because if we're gonna be watching the present day stuff, we might as well learn about the history and how the turtles have been changed and manipulated and altered for the times. We might as well, because not if you're just enjoying like if you're enjoying it now in the present day, then surely you must have appreciation for the old works, the old art, you know. But yeah, no, it's certainly something to think about as we go on through this channel, like learning about the past, about how these comics turned into shows and what they are today is a really interesting concept, and I think so. I think I would continue on, maybe learning a bit more.
With that, hang on. So, when do you think this comic came out? Because we've been talking about this one as if it's come out a lot longer than it did. Because this one only came out in 2011.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I'm sounding quite old here. Maybe
We looked at the first issue like a few months ago.
Yeah, no, I'm just remembering that now. Like the first issue was
84.
84. Yeah, no, gosh, sorry, I'm getting confused. Apologies.
Yeah, this one isn't really that long. It came out in between like 2003 and 2012.
Still some time ago. But yeah, no, absolutely. I would recommend going further with this sort of style of the comics, because it's dark, it's gloomy, it's something that I quite like in a series. Like it's a very dark and mysterious and full of twists and turns and flashbacks and all the good stuff that makes something so good, for me at least. I don't know about you, but it definitely makes it for me.
You have to say that it's like a really nice contrast compared to TV shows, where it's able to be darker, more mature for like the right audience. And I think that it's just so disappointing that they've not capitalised on this and tried to make this into like a movie or TV show, because I'd say that this would do like really well as a movie or like a mini series on like Paramount Plus or something like that. This would do like so well, and it's disappointing that they're not like decided to capitalise on this, because it would do so well. But I'd say that it's like a really nice contrast to the TV shows, but the TV shows do have like a nice little flair, which I would say that this is missing, but this has a lot of stuff which the TV shows would never do, which is like really great, because I see a lot more great stuff, but at the same time, we will never see that animated or anything like that. But yeah.
Which is a real shame.
Yeah, because I'd say like there's so much in this universe which would like make so. It'd be perfect for like a mini series or like Paramount Plus exclusive show, because it would bring like so many people into it, because like loads of people are complaining saying that like they do want darker, more mature stuff like this, and yet we're seeing stuff like this which does like really well like when like people when like they're selling it, and I'd say that normally just make the charts like top 10 and stuff like that, which is like really surprising, and yet they don't do anything about it. It's just like it's almost as if they don't want to make money.
Yeah, no, it's a no-brainer really. But why did they stop making? Why did the person stop making it in this format? Like, why did they stop?
They haven't stopped. With this, it's a comic book series that it's running alongside like the TV shows and the movies and all that, but it's just a separated thing. But with this, it ran for 150 issues. And then after that, they decided to relaunch it with a new writer, and it's still going now. However, the company is in very, let's just say that in the next 2 years, it won't be around, because they had to suffer loss of their stocks and shares. It was down to like 30 cents, and had to take off the New York exchange market, and they just recently held a property placement holder, something like that, where people from the company had to buy into it, and the reason for that is just because like they're not making any money really, and even though they are making a lot of toy comics, it's not making as much as they are wanting to. So in the next 2 years, I want to say, this company won't be around. So it's unfortunate, but
that's a shame.
Yeah, no, and like the crazy thing is like I want to say like about 5-6 years ago, they were like, I think they were like the third biggest comic company, and they had like so many big licenses. They had Turtles, My Little Ponies, Transformers, G.I. Joe, Doctor Who, Star Trek, and
wow, some really good classics then.
Yeah, and then also did some stuff for like Marvel. Like they had like big IPs, and I'd say for like they were doing and they were doing really well. However, slowly over time, like most of the companies have taken their IPs and went to other companies. So now it's down to the Turtles, Sonic, My Little Ponies, Star Trek, and Monster High. And they were thinking about going into the streaming thing. They got one show that was streaming that was cancelled after one season, so they decided to scrap that. And now still doing Turtles, My Little Ponies, Sonic, and all that. But it's very slowly dwindling away. And they recently just announced that they're going to be changing directions, and they're going to be doing stuff in horror, Bible stories, and
what?
Yes, they're modernising Bible stories, so that's going to be a very interesting take on Jesus.
Sorry, when you said horror Bible stories.
Yeah, no, okay, so I'm going to be making like some horror stories, and then in like another series they're going to be doing some Bible stories.
Oh, okay, then that makes sense now. I thought you meant they were going to make Bible horror stories. What?
I wouldn't put it past them at this point.
What the hell? I'm thinking, Jesus, something. How did they go from like G.I. Joe, Transformers, TMT to horror Bible stories? Like there was quite a big jump.
Yeah, you can now. Yeah, So, can you now see why the company's failing?
Yeah, I can see just a tad, but yeah, it's just that sounds mental.
Yeah, I really doubt IDW is going to last longer. And then also, they recently just announced that they had to cut back on the amount of people that were working for them. And they lost, last year they laid off, I think about like 40% of their workforce, and then was getting rid of loads of other people, like really important people to the company. And then, and now just announced like a few days ago that each comic would and going to pay like $200 per page, and the short thing about that is that it's supposed to incentivize the people who are making the comics to advertise the comics. The one big problem with that is that the people who are following them already are buying the comics, so they're advertising to the wrong people.
What?
Yeah. It's a miracle the company is still alive. Basically, everyone's just counting down the final days, and it'll be sad when it goes, but at the same time, they sort of dug their own hole, and I think it's about time they go.
Yeah, no, it sounds like they're slowly going down, unfortunately, which is a shame to hear, because they could make some really good stuff, and now they're going down a different path. But hey ho, that's unfortunately we can't change anything about it. But yeah, no, it just sounds mental how it can go from this to now. This is a very big difference.
Yeah, no, I'll just say it's like really disappointing because a lot of stuff which I have read from like the IDW stuff, like I've branched out a little bit to read some other series which I've done, and for the most part, I'd say that like they did some really great stuff, and I would say that it was out of their hands that most of the last stuff did leave them, but at the same time, it was their fault because they didn't have anything to back it up with like any new original content. It's like they made a lot of stupid decisions that led them to this point, but it's really unfortunate because they have made a lot of good stuff, and to see the speed, something like this, is clinging on to dear life, and I just wish it would just put out, just end it and just put out of its misery, because it's not going to last too much longer, and with how much they've been advertising for like last year, all like new Toll, and that's pretty much the only thing that advertises Toll stuff. Even like all the new stuff, they don't advertise the original stuff, they only advertise Toll stuff. It's a doomed company. It's this. I wish it was in a better place, but it's on them. It's on them, really. Yeah. Okay. Should we move on to the next bit? Because I've got a feeling we're going to be talking about this for next.
Yeah. Let's move on to the next bit.
Okay. Well, the next bit is about next week's episode, which is called City at War Part 1. So, what do you think is going to happen in that episode?
Well, City at War. Well, I think New York's going to become a battlefield. I think there's going to be a lot of chaos, a lot of destruction. I think the Foots and the Turtles are going to go at it again. And I think we're going to see some, I want to say some new characters, but I'm not too sure at this point. Because after last week's episode, in which unfortunately Leatherhead was crushed, maybe he returns, maybe, in this episode, because I know we talked about last week that how he does return, like, he can't just be killed off in that scene, so I think he might make a return in this one, but I highly doubt it, but maybe in the next one after this, maybe, but I'm not getting high hopes at this point, but no, I think the Foot and the Turtles are going to go at it, and I think the gangs are going to be something to do as well, like the Purple Dragons potentially.
You're on the right tracks. It's hard to say because most of that stuff, because it's already spread over like 3 episodes. You're sort of correct about the whole story arc overall, so I'll give you at least a point there.
Yay!
But in saying that, now your absolute favourite part, who do you think is going to be starting the episode? A hint, it's one of the Turtles.
One of the Turtles, okay. If it's going to be something to do with war, I think I want to say, I've got 2 ideas, because one, Leo's the leader, he's talking about how they're going to use their sort of tactics and discipline to win the war, but then of course, then Raphael is the type that I see doing the introduction, like he's going headstrong first, he wants to win this war, but to be honest, I could be taking this out of complete utter context, because it could mean a little ditty street fight to a full-on battlefield, so I think I'm taking this way out of proportions, but I'm going to go with Raphael for this one.
It's Leo.
Oh, damn it.
I think you might be talking in the next one, I think. I could just check if you're actually speaking any of them. But so far...
I should have gone with Leo. Leo was the first choice, but I went with Raphael because he was more.
He's not in part
Oh.
2. And he's in part 3 though, so
Oh,
just a little bit ahead.
just a tad.
But yeah, do you have anything else to say about this episode, or are you just all done with this one now?
To be honest, I'm sort of done. I think I've said what I needed to say, and it was certainly interesting learning about this 2011 comic, might I add. It was very, very different, and I really did enjoy it.
Yeah, I'll just say sort of same things. This has been another episode of Talking Tales. I've been your host Teddy,
And I've been Hayden.
and we'll see you all soon. Goodbye, yo, bye.
Bye!